Welcome back. In today's video, we're going over Form 940, which is the Federal Unemployment Tax Act FUTA form. I'll be answering all of the common questions like who needs to file this, when is it due, how much tax do you pay, and I'll be showing you how you can e-file this form yourself using really convenient software called Tax 1099. And they are the sponsor of today's video. And I've been using this software for many years to file all sorts of IRS forms. And so I'm really happy to have them sponsor today's video. I'm going to be going over the common questions about Form 940 first. So if you want to jump straight to the tutorial, check out the description box down below. Also, if you want to follow along in the software, I would be so grateful if you use my link, which is also down in the description box below, so that I get credit for this video. Plus, when you use my link and enter the code Amanda15, you'll get 15% off. So let's jump in. Do I need to file Form 940? So you need to file Form 940 for federal unemployment if, number one, you paid more than $1,500 to an employee during any quarter of the current or prior year. Or, number two, if you had one or more employees for any amount of time during 20 weeks in the current or prior year. Now, you can count all types of employees for that criteria, but do not count partners in partnerships. Now, if you have a farm, if you're an agriculture business, then these requirements are actually moved up substantially. So for the first one, it's $20,000 instead of $1,500. And for the second one, it's 10 employees instead of one or more. So who is exempt from filing Form 940? Does everyone have to file and pay the FUTA tax? Which employers don't need to do this? So pretty much everyone, all my small business owners, if you have employees, then you're going to need to file this form, except if you are a 501 nonprofit. In that case, you're not exempt from payroll taxes, but you are exempt from FUTA. And then the second category is household employees. And you aren't exempt from FUTA for them, but you can just file Schedule H with your 1040, and that will account for the FUTA tax as well. Or you can choose to not file that form. If you have other employees and you're filing Form 940 anyways, you can put your household employees on the 940. Should I file Form 940 or 941? 940 versus 941, what's the difference? So the answer is both. You generally are going to file both of these forms, and I'll give you a quick summary of the payroll tax forms for Fed. The first one is you're either going to file 941s quarterly or Form 944 annually, and most people are going to do the quarterly form. You can check out my video on Form 941 for more information on those two forms. At the end of the year, you're going to have to file a W-2 for each employee. And then the third filing is the Form 940 for the FUTA at the end of the year. Now, with both the Form 941 and 940, keep in mind that filing the forms is different than when you have to pay the taxes. Those are two different requirements, and you often have to deposit the taxes more often based on how much tax you've had accumulate. So when do I pay FUTA tax? So you must pay the FUTA tax into the IRS when your total FUTA tax liability reaches $500 or more. And you check this amount each quarter to see if you need to make a deposit. The due dates for deposits are quarterly, just like the 941 forms. So the deposit is due by the end of the month following the quarter. And you can see these quarters here. They're the same due dates as for the 941 forms. If you only have a few employees and you participate in your state unemployment tax program, then you're probably not going to exceed this threshold. We'll talk more about that in a minute. What is the penalty for not filing Form 940? The failure to file penalty is 5% of the unpaid tax per month. But keep in mind there can also be deposit penalties for not depositing the money. So what does FUTA cost? Is there a FUTA cap? What is the FUTA limit per employee? Is it $42 or $420? How do we calculate FUTA per employee? So the FUTA starts at 6% of the first $7,000 in wages that you paid an employee. So it's capped at $7,000 of wages, which at the 6% rate would be $420. However, as long as you participated in your state unemployment tax program and you filed and paid those taxes on time, then you get a credit for 5.4%, making the FUTA rate generally 0.6%, which would only be $42. So as long as you follow your state tax rules, FUTA, then you pay $42 per employee, which is exactly why you could have a handful of employees and not need to make a deposit until the end of the year, because you'd have to reach that $500 threshold. Now, what is the FUTA credit reduction? What states get the FUTA credit reduction for 2024? So basically, the federal government facilitates the unemployment program, while the states have their own programs and rules for administering it. So when states run out of money, they borrow from Fed money for their unemployment payout as needed. If the state has a balance, meaning it still owes Fed from money it borrowed, then there can be a reduction in that credit of the 5.4%. And so this reduction amount is handled on Schedule A for the Form 940, and it can be fairly small, and this doesn't tend to affect a lot of states. So I'm not going to go too much into this since it doesn't usually affect many things. So for 2024, we have California, a 0.9% reduction. New York has a 0.9% reduction, and the Virgin Islands has a 4.2% reduction. For 2025, Connecticut may also be in the race. How to file Form 940. Can Form 940 be filed electronically? I encourage you to use a software to complete any IRS forms because it can prevent simple math and instruction form errors. Plus, you can e-file, which means you have the record of it getting filed, submitted, and accepted with the IRS, which is great for your own documentation that you did what you were supposed to do. Now we're going to head on over to Tax 1099, and I'm going to show you how to file this form yourself. Be sure to, if you want to follow along, to grab my link in the description box below. I'd be so grateful if you use my affiliate link so I get credit for this video. So when you click my link, it's going to automatically take you to a sign up page that looks like this, and you'll create an account. Okay, when you log in, you're gonna be here on the dashboard. Now, one thing I have noticed, when you're creating an account, it might ask you some questions about your business. If you get a little stuck where you can't seem to move forward, click these dots in the upper left-hand corner, and then just click on Tax 1099, and it will reload you into the dashboard that looks like this. Now, under Forms, we're going to go create a new form. And now we have 2024 selected, and we're going to go ahead and put in 940. And now we can come down here and click next. Now, if you're just using the software for the first time, you're going to click add to add the details of your business, either as an individual or as a business. Once you do that once for any form, you don't need to re-enter that information. Instead, we'll just click over here where it says select, and I'm going to choose my business, and it will populate like this. It often shows an error under the name control, but it's fine when we proceed. Over here on the right, you can make one of these selections if they apply to you. If you're amending the form because you made a mistake the last time you filed it, you check that. A successor employer means that some of the wages were paid by someone else who used to own the business. The C selection is if you had no employee payments during the year. And then the D selection is saying that this is your final 940 return. You're not paying employees anymore. Now we'll come down here to part 1. And the first question is, if you paid state unemployment tax in one state, we're going to enter the state code in these two boxes. So this is just your regular state code abbreviations. If you paid state unemployment taxes in more than one state, you can leave this blank and check the box here. If you were in one of those states that had the credit reduction, New York, California, or the Virgin Islands, you can check the box here. Checking either of these boxes is going to populate Schedule A. If we don't check these boxes, we are not going to get Schedule A. So I'm going to come down here and we're going to put in the total payments to all employees. So that's going to be $30,000. I'm going to say that we paid one person $30,000. And we didn't include any payments that weren't subject to FUTA, like fringe benefits, group term life insurance, pension plan, etc. Line 5 wants to know the excess amounts paid to each employee over that $7,000 threshold. Since this was only one employee, $23,000 is the excess. If you had any amounts for fringe benefits that are exempt from FUTA, then you would go ahead and subtract those amounts in addition. I'm going to show you in the instructions an example. If we scroll down here to line 5, total payments made to each employee in excess of the $7,000. So you can see this example here. You take the total amounts paid to the employee minus any of those fringe benefits that aren't subject to FUTA, minus the $7,000. The excess amount for all your employees is what you add up and put on line 5. Next, on line 9, it's asking us if all of the FUTA wages you paid were excluded from state unemployment tax. None of ours were excluded from state unemployment tax, and that's going to be the most common situation. So I'm just going to say don't apply. If you do have a credit reduction amount, that's going to show up and need to be entered here on line 11. Okay, and that's it. So we owe $42 because we have one employee. And so now we are going to hit next. So part 5, you're going to fill this out only if the total amount you owe is more than $500. So now we're at the last section, part 6. May we speak with a third-party designee. If you want to put in someone here that they can talk to who's going to do your payroll going forward or something like that, you could do that, or you can just leave it as no. And then make sure if you're doing this yourself, you are not a paid preparer and you say no. If you are a paid preparer, click yes and enter your information. Now we're going to go ahead and click next. And now you can pay with the EFTPS system, or you can just mail in a check. And when you click mail in a check, it gives you the details right here. Now we can check the box and click next. It's going to give us a summary, and this is the 8453, which is for e-filing. And we can come down here, sign our name, print the details, select your category for your position, and click next. Under part 2, I forget that you have to click box 6. No one's going to take money out of our account, but for whatever reason, we have to check the box that we understand that and then click next. Once you update the form, you need to submit it. So we come back to the dashboard and we're going to go to forms, and then you can see we're under unsubmitted forms. So we're going to scroll down to the form type we just updated, 940, and then it's going to show up here. And I'm going to select the form and come over to actions on the right side and go submit this form. This is where we can pay. Now you'll see a summary of the $4.99 fee. You can enter the coupon code Amanda15. It's not going to let me do that. And then we can click pay now and we'll e-file as well. Then you can come back in here and you can check for this form under submitted forms. It usually happens very quickly if a form is rejected, but I believe it's within 48 hours. The form will show up under rejected or submitted. If it is rejected, look at whatever the rejection reason was, fix it, and then resubmit. Where can I get help filing Form 940? So there's the IRS Form 940 instructions. There's also Schedule A and Schedule A instructions. Plus there's the IRS Business and Specialty Tax Line, which you can call to ask questions. Here's the number. Just know if you're going to call the IRS to have plenty of time, be in a good mood, and really focus on good juju so you get someone helpful. The other resource I can give you is my Paying Workers and Owners course. And this course goes through everything about paying employees and all types of workers so that you can do it yourself or work with a software to help you. And once you register for one of my courses, you can get access to office hours where you can ask me questions live on Zoom and get my help. That's all. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear any questions or comments you have down below this video. And if you're new here, do consider subscribing. Remember, all the details about everything I've mentioned is in the description box below. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.